Sahana vavatu, sahano bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahe, tejasvinavadhitamastu, ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we be nurtured together. May we be nourished together. May we strive together, that is, to make progress in the class. May our learning shine, that is, to assimilate this knowledge. May we not quarrel. Alright, back to Bhagavadgita. Tattva Bodha, done. Chapter 5. Okay, Chapter 5 theme is Jnana Yoga, self-knowledge, leads to total discrimination of Atma and Anatma. Okay? The other part of Jnana Yoga is it leads to total renunciation. That means detachment. From what? Right? From what is not I. So this means that one who doesn't know who they are, the common trait is there are associations to things in life to work out the way I want them to work out. That means they're important. Their presence is important to me because they give me existence, a purpose. And if they're not there, then I soon discover how dependent I was on them. So this is samsara, depending on objects for happiness. And this is the state of the world. It's only when Jnana Yoga, being the means, turns into the end, which is moksha, that one is liberated from this constant dependence on objects for happiness. Okay. Renunciation has two parts to it. The first is outer renunciation. Outer renunciation, we all practice to a certain extent. However, complete outer renunciation, because I said total renunciation, remember? Or total detachment. So now, if I put the word outer renunciation, that would now imply that I've got to be completely free of everything. So that's not what we're saying. We're saying outer renunciation has to be practiced to a certain extent. So this means that life has to be simplified to a manner where distractions don't constantly come into the life. Okay, it's just like studying any subject and you want to be good at it. The more distractions come, the more opportunity for not assimilating or having the full comprehension of the topic which I was studying. So outer renunciation helps a lot in form of simplicity in life. Okay? So this means not going to unnecessary places. So what does this mean? It means asking, if I were to go, is this going to have some significant life impact in my life? Right? Just taking a moment to assess what's the place that I'm about to go to. Does it have any long-term positive impact? And the other thing one could ask is, will I still be interested in this in 5 years? Right? Because what happens is usually we'll pick something and we think that's the end, this is my life now. But in truth, if you just take a moment to pause and say, will this still be present in my life in 1 or 2 years, then if the answer is no, then ask yourself, so then why am I getting into it in the first place? That means I'm going to waste 5 years, potentially, into something that's not going to have much impact in my life. So this is one way to assess, or at least to help with detaching from these strong tendencies to engage in certain worldly objects. Okay. The other renunciation is internal renunciation. So we spoke of external, now we're speaking of internal. Internal renunciation is two parts. First is discover my nature as Atman, discover my higher nature as Atman, awareness. And number two, find out how not to be associated or how to dissociate from worldly objects. That's your duty. It's easy to say I'm Atma, but if I say am I relate? Do I feel binded to objects? Do I feel imprisoned by certain things in my life? Then we need to discover how to slowly, not immediately, unbind ourselves. Okay? So summary is discover Atma, this is internal renunciation, and how not, or why I am actually not associated to anything in this world. That's your duty. Okay? If I still think that I'm associated to parents, to my ancestral line, to children, wife, husband, friends, then that's just one more opportunity for attachment. And one more opportunity for attachment leads to one more distraction, one more level of challenge to free oneself from that I am free. You see, so it's all connected. We're not saying run away. We just need to understand it is in my life, but I need to discover how my parents are actually not my parents, right? You need to be like open about it. How is it that my wife, husband, children are actually not my wife, husband, and children? Okay. So these two, this Atma has two attributes. And we'll compare this to space. So we'll start with like. Atma is like space. I did not say it's space. I used Tatastha Lakshana, indirect definition, and I said like space. Okay, space is intimately connected or intimately present with everything in space. Is that not true? Space is very intimate with everything. So there's no space between this and space. Right? So wherever, can I say there's a space between the edges of my face and space itself? Impossible. So wherever there is space, wherever there is object, there is exactly where space is. Even if I look at a subatomic particle, I can see the electron floating around in space. So this is what we mean. Wherever we look, that's exactly where space is. So it's close to everything. And number two is it is not connected to anything. So like space, it is close and intimate with everything. And two, it is not connected to anything. And we can also say it is not tainted by what it accommodates. Tainted means it is not contaminated. It is not affected. It is not influenced by what it contains. So that's two parts. The first is it's intimate with everything, and second, it is not associated with what it is intimate with. So this is called asanga, asanga swabhavaha. Asanga swabhavaha. It's not here. Asanga swabhavaha. Asanga means independent. Asanga. That means its nature, its swarupa. Swarupa means nature. Its nature is asanga, independent. Swabhavaha is, it's personal. That means your personal, like swadharma, personal dharma. That means your personal nature is independent. That's what Atma is. So Atma is asanga swabhavaha. Okay. So what we compare this to is like a movie screen. A movie screen stands independent of the pictures shining upon it. So suppose that a movie is displaying a water image or a fire image, then the screen itself is not going to get wet nor burnt. So this is what we call asanga, independent swabhavaha. So Atma is like that. It stands apart. It's very intimate with the picture, with the objects in this universe, but it completely remains untainted, uncontaminated by what it is intimate with. So let's take this personally. That means you are untainted, uncontaminated, pure, despite the thoughts that are running and emotions that are going on 24/7. So this is a matter of knowledge. You're not supposed to feel like you are intimate with things. You're not supposed to feel like, yeah, I am number one intimate. I'm a sangha, right? I'm independent. And two, but I am not tainted by anything. You can't feel that. It's just knowledge. It's just knowing it. It's accepting it right now. That's who I am. You understand? So we're not trying to look for an experience. We're just simply listening to this. That's my nature, asanga, swabhavaha. I am untainted. I am pure. That's who I am. That's it. It's accepting it. And sometimes we need a little bit of faith to accept it, because we've been trained 30 plus years and told otherwise, right? Okay, so when I recognize my asanga, asanga means what?
Independent.
Good. And swarupa is?
Personal
Nature. When I recognize my asanga swarupa, I know that I accommodate everything, but I am not related to anything. These two attributes is what a wise person has in their background thought. It's not a thought, it's an understanding. But it was a thought at the beginning. And the thought, like anything, eventually turns into a knowing, right? Just like you had a thought how to drive, and now you just know how to drive. You need to think about it. So we're talking about subconscious. It's in the background. So what's in the background of a wise person? I accommodate everything, but I am not tainted by what I accommodate. So right now, as you're writing, you can even think, I accommodate this entire world, or just stick with the body. I accommodate this body, these thoughts, this curiosity, what he's going to say next. I accommodate that, this relaxation that I'm experiencing in the sofa. I, Atma, accommodate that, and I'm not tainted nor contaminated by what I accommodate. That means you're free. So this understanding is what a sannyasa or sannyasaha is. True renunciation, true sannyasaha. And what a sannyasi, a true renunciate, knows. This statement. I accommodate everything, and I am not tainted, I am not contaminated, I am not touched by what I accommodate. This is a direct swarupa. If you were to put it into a thought of a jnani, of a wise person. Okay? I accommodate everything, and I am untainted by what I accommodate. So this means I love everything, I love all equally. Why? Because I accommodate everything, and I permeate everything. So I love all equally, and yet I am not attached to what I love. Space, it's intimate, and yet it stands apart, or we can even remove stands apart. We can say it is not related to what it accommodates. Similarly, you're not related to this dream. Just like a dreamer, right, who's sleeping. Let's say you have a lucid dream, and you go, wow, amazing, right? This is my, lucid dreams, we probably had them. I had lucid dreams when I was little. And we wake up in the dream, and we go, wow, this is quite an interesting dream. I've been wanting to lucid dream for quite a while, and I finally find myself totally conscious in the dream. So now, yeah, exactly, and now you can do different things, right? So the dreamer now looks around and goes, all this is actually in me, the dreamer, right? Imagine that. You're in your dream and go, all this, wow, every character's got a different personality, right? Everyone's like talking about what all this is, and yet I know the truth, right? It's that kind of exciting feeling. It's that exciting knowledge. Like, wow, this is amazing. That's why I love everything. But I do not get attached by what I love because I know it is just a power in me. Okay, so this is what we call detachment. Detachment not out of being forced to detach, but detachment out of understanding that everything is me. All right, verse 17, let's revise. Okay, before we go into verse 18 and 19. So the goal today is to revise verse 17, go through verse 18 and verse 19, chapter 5 of the Bhagavadgita. Okay. So we divided verse 17 into 4 steps, remember? 4 steps of one's spiritual progress. The first one was Tatparayanaha. Okay. This is step 1. And this 4 steps applies to everyone, irrespective of their background or their creed. So the first step is about seeing the value in self-knowledge, seeing the vision. So step 1 is seeing the vision. And Krishna calls this parayanaha, this vision. Now, what do I mean by having this vision? Just imagine if someone that you know puts your head underneath a tub of water for just a little bit for too long, right? For a little bit longer than you feel comfortable with. And they notice you start to struggle. And they think, no, it's okay. They can still bear it just a little bit longer. What's going to happen to your mind? No matter how many desires, no matter how many thoughts, how many addictions, how many repetitive patterns in the mind that person has in the tub, in that moment, there's only going to be one singularity, one thought. I want to breathe. I want to breathe. One thought. So this one thought, this obsession with this one single thought, I want to breathe, this obsession is step 1. This obsession should be in self-knowledge. I should be obsessed about jnana yoga, about self-knowledge. Like crazy obsessed, like no life, I've got no life obsessed. Okay, so this is the recognition of the value of vision, of self-knowledge. Okay, everyone comes at this stage eventually. Step 2, tad buddhaya ha. Step 2 is knowing Atma is in my body. So you can hear the indirect definition there, the apartness. Atma as consciousness in my body. This is what we all get through. Like Atma is somewhere over there and Atma is in my body. Right? I have Atma, I have consciousness. This is second stage. In other words, I am a body and I have Atma. This is stage 2. Okay, and this stage 2 is when we come to Vedanta, but also all stages come to Vedanta. You'll be surprised that Also, at least sometimes 40% who come to Vedanta class, who keep coming, are actually completely liberated. Totally fine. So don't think that just because, you know, oh, I'm coming, you know, I don't know. It's got nothing to do with it. I still go to basic courses just because I like to be in the presence of knowledge, right? There's nothing else to do. So stage 2 in this case is usually when the student, the sadhaka, the seeker, discovers the guru, the teacher. And so they sit down and they start to listen and they hear how the truth, Atma, is in your body. This is what they hear and they go, wow, this is interesting. So this is actually me. But how can I get myself to identify with this? So this question is what leads us to stage 3. Tat Atmanaha. Okay, so stage 3. Learning to identify with Atma as myself. Learning to identify with Atma as me. As Swarupa. It's my direct nature. In other words, I am Atma and I have an incidental body. That's direct knowledge of someone who's starting to assimilate this little by little. You got to start saying it because it is your identity. Sometimes we feel shy. We don't want to say it because we feel, you know, like fraud or like, I can't say that. I don't feel like Atma. You're never going to feel it because feeling belongs to a different order of reality, Nitya. You understand? It's about just accepting, knowing it. This is the case. This is all there is to it. It's just knowledge. You just got to know it. Like right now. Just like you know right now that this cap has dropped from here to here. Did you have to feel this? No, you just accepted it. That's the case. So it's the same thing with stage 3. I am Atma and I have an incidental body. Just accepting it. Now, if I told you this statement at lesson 1 of this course, that is a year ago, then that would be unjust statement. Do you know why? Because there would be no knowledge to back it up. That's what we call neo-Advaita. That means we just walk into a class and we hear your consciousness. Your nature is limitless. And then the person is not prepared. They don't have the foundation and they just hear it and they walk out with partial knowledge. Right? It's just some statement as an affirmation now. But now, having gotten enough knowledge, we can start claiming our identity. This is called taking a stand in awareness. Taking a stand in awareness. I assertively say, yes, this is who I am. I take a stand in my nature right now. I am tired of being a body. I am tired of being a mind. I'm tired of being a thought. I'm tired of putting importance to my thoughts, importance to my life. I am limitless, right? Just really being assertive about it.
Can I ask you, do you mean in that situation only your own thoughts to be assertive? You're not going to try and practice saying that in class or with anyone else, so you just mean...
Indeed, good point. Yeah, it's very personal.
It's very personal. It's just asserting yourself in your thoughts.
In your thoughts, yeah. Yeah, you know, this is a very personal journey, right? Because why should I go around getting validation how others, you know, hear me saying, you know, I'm consciousness. That means I actually don't understand nature because they're also consciousness. So why would I say I'm consciousness? Okay, so you're right, Lloyd. This is a personal thought. You know, you're working this. You don't even tell your wife, your children, nothing. Nobody knows about this.
And if you start feeling special even by thinking that,
yeah,
then you've got to put yourself in a check.
Oh, yeah.
That's your ahankara. Jumping on that is another tool to be able to hold you back.
Very good. You know, we're getting to humbleness now in verse 19. We'll talk about what it means to be humble or humility. Peter, just put questions down when they come up and then you can all ask them. Okay, so that means I'm owning and claiming my identity. Okay, step 4 is tanishtaha. Okay, step 4 is this after owning constantly becomes spontaneous, just normal, like driving a car, right? At the beginning, I had to think about it. I was a little bit frustrated. I made some mistakes. I thought I would never get it. I was overwhelmed by how am I going to change this huge intersection? How am I going to deal with this huge intersection? And then over time, right, you get used to it. Okay, so stage 4 is it becomes spontaneous, okay? So this is very slow. So don't think if I don't, it's not supposed to happen overnight. It's very slow and spontaneous, and it should be spontaneous and slow.
So that is
Tanishtaha, number 4. Stage 4 metaphor is, imagine you're an actor, a very well-paid actor on stage, and you got to play a dramatic role. For both genders, imagine both the sexes are on stage, and each one of us has lost, and we're playing this role. Now, while we're playing it, we know that there's an audience watching, and we're going to get a good job done. So this means we're going to put a very good act in front of the world, in front of the audience. But all the time while we're putting on a good act, not in any moment this person behind the mask is getting identified with that role. Same thing with a jnani. A jnani, a wise person, puts on a role constantly. A normal person, nothing out of the ordinary, still participates, still cries, still has emotions, still has what you would call psychological traits. Okay, so we're not trying to glorify a wise person to some kind of a perfect, with a shining head on top. It's a normal person because the traits all belong to a different order of reality called mithya. Okay, except the wise person knows I am the untainted satyam. Okay, so we can give this a name, constant. That means by stage 4, what happens is this: constant, effortless awareness. It's effortless and it's constant. And we call this a jnana nishtha, constant, effortless awareness. Now, how do you know when it's accessible? How do you know if it's constant? When there's a situation of crisis in life, ask yourself, is it still this knowledge of myself, who I am, is it still available in times of crisis? Is it available as much and as clearly in times of crisis as it is in class? Yeah. So we're not interested in clarity in class. We're interested in clarity in the world with normal situations, right? So it has to be constant. That's how you know how well you've assimilated this knowledge. Okay. Now, the benefit of following 4 stages is while the person is alive, they are a jivan muktaha. That means they are liberated while living. That's the benefit of following these 4 stages. A jivan muktaha, liberated free while living. And after death, that jiva muktaha gains a new name, just for purposes of reference point, called videha muktaha. Videha. Videha muktaha is one who is no longer born. Okay, so they are free from this limited form forever. Okay, so jiva mukta while living, free, and videha mukta while, well, not while, after death, free. Okay, next verse. Now let's start the next verse, 18. All right. Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavihastini shunichaiva shvapakecha pandita samadarshinaha. Okay. We'll just read the verse. Wise people are indeed those who see the same consciousness in Brahmana. Brahmana is a wise person who is endowed with knowledge and humility in a cow, in an elephant, and a dog, even a dog eater. So there's quite a bit in this verse, so we'll explain it. Okay, this verse talks about the transformation that Jnana Yoga has on a person. That means once Jnana Yoga is assimilated, it now speaks of what happens to that person who at some point did not know who I was, and at the next point, after some time, knows who I am. Okay? So, the wise person looks at the world and people differently than an ignorant person. So the perspective is different. Okay. So this is what the verse is speaking of, how the perspective changes from person and to the world. So according to Vedanta, people and the world is not the problem. Okay? So this means, you know how we often say people and the world are the issue? According to Vedanta, people and the world, no matter who we're speaking of, no matter how close they are to us, is not the problem. Why? Because in that same world which we call problematic, we also have jnanis, wise people, who look at the world and are, I'll put it in quotes, enjoying ananda, enjoying their nature as limitless. And I put it in quotes because not enjoying as in, taking a cake and gustatory enjoyment. I'm talking about just knowledge that I am limitless, that kind of enjoyment. Okay, I'm not talking about sense enjoyment. And they see the world perfectly fine. Everything's fine with the world. So we cannot say that something's wrong with the world, because there are also people who see the world perfectly fine. Like, wow, what a great place. But what about the oil spills? What about the wars, right? What about all of the turn on the news, and what about all that? To an ignorant person, that is worthy of speaking of. But to a wise person, they look at it differently. Okay, so this verse speaks about that. So all is perfect. That's how a wise person looks at the world. Because all is consciousness, and consciousness is free of mithya. Okay? So that means an ignorant person is focused on mithya, a wise person is focused on the essence which pervades the entire world, the entire jagat. So the world is not a problem, the problem is perspective. Okay? And Vedanta does not transform the world, Vedanta transforms your perspective. How you look at things. And what kind of perspective is this? The perspective is like this. The world is a mirror. The mirror of what? The world is a mirror of my understanding of myself. For example, suppose that... Okay, so what does this mean? It means how I look at myself is how I look at the world. Olga, you mind if you turn number 3? Is that maximum?
Yeah, sounds right.
Okay. So how I look at myself is how I look at the world. Now, just imagine that I like to put a lot of importance on dressing. So what happens is I wake up and I spend 30 minutes before going to work. I've got to look perfect, got to have a nice suit, got to brush up all the dust. So I put a lot of importance on looks, on physical looks. So what do you think is going to happen when I go to the world? The first thing that I'll notice in the world is, or at least the first thing I'll give value to, is physical looks. Right? I can't help it because that's how I see myself. Therefore, the world reflects that in terms of what I give worthiness to the world first. So this means that the same concept applies to God. So this means if I am a physically oriented, if I put a lot of attention and importance to looks, then I will look at God in a form. If I look at, for example, if my physical importance is, I always put a lot of importance to physical things, then I will look God as something like the sun, something that I can revere, or like a picture of an Ishta Devata, like a personal deity. So that means or like a statue, right? So this would directly reflect my personality. If I am emotionally oriented, then I will look at God as, Ishvara, as like compassion, like the compassionate one, right? Or the peaceful one. If I am intellectual, then I will look at Ishvara as omniscient, all-knowing. So it depends on what personality I have is exactly how I will look at Ishvara. This is why we're not interested in spiritual meetups. Because what happens in spiritual meetups is everyone's got a different personality. And so they're all looking at Ishvara differently. And so nobody can really agree, because for me, Ishvara is the sun. For you, it's compassion. For you, it's the all-knowing. So there's no agreement. So this is why this journey of Advaita Vedanta is extremely, you could say, alone. Because we tell you exactly what is Ishvara. So one cannot now go say Ishvara is the sun, Ishvara is just this, it's just that. Ishvara is everything. But you're not going to hear this in a spiritual meetup, are you? Because the person is saying, no, Ishvara is just the sun. Ishvara is just Jesus. Ishvara is just Muhammad. Ishvara is just, right? We say Ishvara is everything. So you can see how the personality determines even how I look at God. So this means my understanding of myself, if I am emotional, then I will see God emotional. If I'm intellectual, I will attribute intellectual, all-knowing to God. Okay. If I am saguna, jiva, with gunas, a jiva with gunas, then I will look at Ishvara as saguna Ishvaraha. Saguna jivaha equals Ishvaraha saguna. That means me with 3 gunas equals Ishvara with 3 gunas. If I look at myself as nirguna chaitanyam, for example, chaitanya means consciousness, that means consciousness without the 3 gunas, then I will look at Ishvara as nirguna chaitanyam. It's a direct mirror reflection. That's the point. Okay. So, a jnani looks at the world as Atma, consciousness, and says, I am Atma, and I have an incidental body, a body that I am wearing. And then how does the jnani look? If it looks at him or herself as Atma, then how does the jnani look at others? Same way. I can't help it. How you look at yourself is how you look at everyone else. So, this means that a jnani, just by their knowledge of themselves, automatically sees the world differently. This is what I mean by perspective. It's not about changing the world, but changing my understanding of everything. Okay. So the benefit of knowledge is sama darshinaha. So we'll talk about sama darshinaha. Darshinaha, it's quite funny, the word television in Sanskrit is dura darshanam. Darshanam is vision. So you say, how was there a television thousands of years ago? Well, if you look at tele, vision, tele means what? Far. And vision means I see. So tele and vision put together. Dura means far, and darshana means vision. So dura darshanam. Same thing, right? So it was a new word that was put together. Okay, so the benefit of knowledge is sama darshinaha. Sama darshinaha means to see the same. Sama means same, so I see everything the same. Not same with my eyes, but same as in understanding. Yeah, everything is the same in understanding. Okay, and vidya vinaya sampanne. Okay. Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane. So brahmane is brahmana. Brahmana is a smart person, a self-realized. Okay, we don't use the word self-realized. A liberated person, a brahmana. Also, a brahmana is not necessarily sometimes liberated. It's just in a very high position of the society, because we have the 4 varna, the 4 caste system. So brahmana can be both. In this case, brahmana is a liberated person. So, also interesting that in the tradition, we used to see a brahmana was voluntarily required to practice poverty and simplicity. Why? because if one gets into business and they get into the worldly matters. So we're not trying to practice poverty, but we can practice simplicity because we're in a different society. So Brahmana practices simplicity, just like I said, because you need to simplify life to get more time to study. Okay, so Brahmana is rich in vidya, knowledge. So just like with money, we can buy limited objects. However, with knowledge, vidya, we can buy unlimited moksha. So it's a good deal, right? Instead of buying constant objects, I can buy unlimited moksha with vidya. Okay, Vinaya is, we'll talk about Vinaya, is humility. And Sampane is endowed. So a Brahmana is endowed, a wise person is endowed, Sampane, with knowledge and humility. Now, let's talk about humility. Okay, why is it important to be humble? Think about, you know, when people come to you and you know, they like, you know, they bow. And you know, sometimes they don't even do it physically, but even mentally they bow. See, this is a sign of humility or humbleness. It means I bow to that which has something for me, you know, it has something to offer me. So I bow to something that is higher, not as in I am lower, but something that is higher as in some knowledge that is higher to me. So this bowing or this bending represents this humility. Now, why is it important? Think about a river. The only way a river can receive the water from the mountain, that which is higher, is if the river is lower, right? So the only way the stream of knowledge can flow is if the river lowers itself below the source of knowledge. This is called humility. If I put on a big show and I'm, you know, some big person, then what happens is, I mean, even for example, Mahabharata, Kansa, who he was opposite humility. He always put himself above God. So if I put myself above a source of knowledge, then I cannot receive because knowledge always flows down. So humility is just about going, you know what, I'm not that important, not that smart, not that significant, and because of that, automatically my identity drops, and there it can start receiving knowledge. This means Brahmana cannot purchase vidya without vinaya. A Brahmana cannot purchase knowledge without humility. This is another big qualification. Because if we have someone that comes in and they say, I've been in the spiritual world for 20, 30, 40 years, I know so much more, I say, that's fine, that's true. But at the same time, it also demonstrates a potential lack of humility, right? So in that case, one's not going to receive the knowledge. So a Brahmana is an embodiment of Vidya and Vinaya. Okay. Now, next is Gavi. Now, Gavi in India is a holy, respected animal. It's a sattvic animal. Have you seen a cow? I've been traveling through in India from Tirumavalai to the airport. And, you know, there's like 8 lanes of roads, very busy, and then a cow is right in the middle of all this beeping. Right, so relaxed, right? So relaxed. So this is sattva. Also, in this tradition, the cow is supposed to be an embodiment of all the devas. Devas, like, you know, all the gods of fire, gods of earth, gods of intelligence. When I say deva, just think of intelligence in different forms. Like you need weather deva, right? You need intelligence to demonstrate how the rain's going to fall, and you know when the rain's going to fall if the cloud gets too heavy. And also in some villages we still practice what's called a clockwise circumambulation. This is pradakshinam. It's called pradakshinam, where they will come around the cow and walk around in a clockwise direction to worship, or to, because it's a symbol of devas. Don't think of it just as some barbaric act. It's just a symbol to offer to God. It's humility. Okay, so the cow is also seen as a brahmana. Now we go into Hastini. Hastini is an elephant. You also have another word, Gajaha. That's another elephant in Sanskrit. Hastini is an elephant, and it's also worship, and it's an embodiment of what's called Vinayaka. Vinayaka is celebrated every year. It's the birth of Ganesha, and Ganesha is a really cool person, represents self-knowledge, you know, with the big belly, happy, full, and holds a bowl of sweets. That's the fruit of self-knowledge. Standing on a rat, that means conquer desires. I mean, you can just see the entire summary of Vedanta in just Ganesha alone. Okay. So the wise person also sees Brahman in the elephant. Okay, now next we have Shuni. Shuni is a dog. Now in India, a dog is considered the lowest category of an animal. Is that true? The lowest category. It used to be, at least in, yeah, it used to, not anymore, but it used to, because this was written many thousands of years ago. I don't know why. It doesn't really matter, because the point is a Brahmana sees even Brahman in that which one would usually ignore, like a worm or, you know, an ant or a cockroach, something that we would usually just kill, you know, Mortein spray. So a Brahmana also sees a Brahman in the dog in this case. And also a Shwapake. Shwapake is a dog. Okay, without saying the obvious, Shwapake is an uncivilized person. Like a really barbaric, uncool, uncivilized, untrained person who is, you know, just kind of an annoying person to be around. They don't contribute much. But also the other word is dog eater. Now, in India, the tradition of eating meat is for one reason only, and that is because it symbolizes ahimsa, injury, to a living creature. And there is a certain, I don't know what the name is, but a certain script, grantha, text that says, for moksha, 2 rules, no liquor and no meat. Why? The why is more important than the rule. Because both liquor and meat promote tamaguna. And tamaguna is very, when we feel fuzzy, when we feel, what's the other word for tamaguna? When we feel kind of cloudy and slow and fatigued and, you know, just lazy, all of this is contributed by certain foods like liquor and meat, especially like turkey, because turkey has tryptophan, which makes a person sleepy. It's an amino acid that makes the brain sleepy. So if you eat the turkey, you fall asleep. But also some meats, also they all promote basically a level of tamaguna. Now, some of us are eating meat, so there's a dilemma now. So that's going to be solved by saying this. You can always cut back, right? But be cautious, because just look at your how your body reacts. Is it feeling fatigued? Is it feeling tired? Is it feeling still sharp as before it ate the meat? If it is, then continue with your meat. If it starts to be slow and lethargic, then, you know, cut that down. Be smart about it. Okay, so these differences that we just described, Agavi, Hastini, Shuni, and Shwapake, they're all, to a wise person, known to be superficial differences. They're all suits, clothes worn by Brahman. Right? They're a suit in the form of a tree, a suit in the form of a woman, a suit in the form of a man, a suit in the form of a rock. So they're all superficial, sthula, sukshma shariras. That's what a wise person understands. I do see these differences, but they're all superficially different, right? In terms of they're all different suits, they're all different forms. While the jnani, the vision is focused on Atma. So for a jnani, there is no differences. If the focus is on Atma, if the focus changes to superficial differences, there are differences. You understand? So it's not about seeing everything as the same, even though it is the same. You see, everything is the same, but there are differences. So it's a paradox, but it's not a paradox because we just solved it. Everything's different in terms of this transactional reality, but everything is the same in terms of the essence of the reality. So the samadarshanam or samadarshinaha, for a wise person, this knowledge that everything is the same is in the background. It's in the subconscious. That means one doesn't have to go, who am I? I am Sthula Sukshma Karana Shariya Vyatiriktaha Panchakoshatita Avasthatraya Sakshi Svarupa Chita. Who am I? Sachidananda Swarupa. No, who am I? Sthula Sukshma Karana Shariya Vyatiriktaha Sachidananda Swarupa. No, who am I? Right? He doesn't need to do that. It's automatic. It's just like driving a car, right? It's just right now. If I just bring this up, you know how to drive a car? Instantly, yes. But you don't even need to think about it, right? So same thing with self-knowledge. You don't need to think about it. It's always there, whether I'm in crisis or not. Whether a person is in crisis or not, they always know how to drive a car. It's exactly the same. Okay. So a jnani, once again, on a transactional level, sees differences. So just a simple example. Imagine a person is wearing a golden bracelet. Now, a golden bracelet, very cute one like that Kelsey's wearing, a golden bracelet gets treated differently than a golden chain. What's the other name for this? A necklace, a golden necklace. I treat a golden necklace differently from a golden earring. I treat a golden earring differently from a nose ring, golden. I treat a golden nose ring differently from a golden tongue ring. Treat differently a golden tongue ring from a golden nipple ring. Okay? So, the point is, a jnani treats this transactional reality called vyavaharika differently according to the demands and the needs of the environment, but sees the gold, sees Atma everywhere. So a jnani is not one who says, you know what, we're all just one, let's all just hug together. No, a jnani still treats mom like a mom, treats a spouse like a spouse, treats a rude person like any other person would treat. You need to stop, right? Treats someone who is deserving of being educated like a teacher. Treats someone who needs to be spoiled, who needs to get a little bit of a spank for being naughty, treats that the same, just like an ordinary person, but sees the gold, the Atma in all those which he or she treats. While an ignorant person treats everything differently, but does not see the sameness. See the difference? So, once again, a wise person is allowed to have different roles because you need to treat a bangle differently from a necklace, right? I have to need a different relationship. But I see the sameness in both. Okay, so this is a wise person. Okay, verse 19. Ihaiva taijita sargaha yesham samye sthitam manaha nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmad brahmanite sthitaha. Okay, the cycle of birth and death is one over here itself. That means the cycle of birth and death is one here on earth, but those whose mind is rooted in that which is the same in everything. Since Brahman, that is free from any defect, is always the same, the wise people or the wise person abides in that which is always the same. That's why there's no problem. Because if I abide in my thoughts, which are always different, I'm constantly agitated. If I'm abiding in what is always the same, then what's the result? I'm content because Atman doesn't change. Awareness doesn't change. All right, now let's explain this. There is a philosophical debate. And the philosophical debate says that liberation is for a living person, and the other debate says that liberation is only for a person who has died. This is a constant battle that's going on in the world. And I don't know any other school that clearly says liberation is possible here and now, except Advaita Vedanta. In my limited knowledge, I do not know if there's any. All the other schools that I know promise some kind of a liberation later, after death, at some point in some future time. Now, I may be wrong. Maybe there's other systems who say same as Vedanta, but I'm just, sharing that Advaita does not say this. It means you're free right here, right now. Why? Because if, let's say, there's a different world, a different loka, a different heaven, if that heaven needs what? I'm conscious in that heaven, am I not? Let's say I go to heaven. I'm conscious because I need to validate the heaven with my consciousness. But I also need to validate this earth with my consciousness. That means I also need to validate hell with my consciousness. That means whether I am in heaven, hell, or on earth, they're still validated by the same principle called consciousness. So Vedanta says you don't need to go to heaven, hell, or any other place because you already have what you're looking for, consciousness. And are you not conscious here now? Yes, you are. Therefore, liberation is available right here, right now. Because there is nothing that I can gain over there except different form of 5 elements than here. But they both need consciousness. They both need my awareness to be validated. So, we've got like Shiva, Loka, Praptihi. Praptihi means arrival. We got Vishnu Loka Praptihi, Brahma Loka Praptihi, Heaven Loka Praptihi. So there's endless lokas to go to. There are different, you could say, orders of reality in Mitya. They're just more subtle. And we say that is, yes, there is different lokas, absolutely, but one does not need to wait for a different loka to be liberated. Okay, so that's what we're saying. So Advaita is liberation is here and now. Okay, and who is liberation here and now for? Taihi sargaha jittaha. Taihi sargaha jittaha. Okay, jittaha means conquered, to overcome. I've overcome or I've conquered. I've conquered what? Okay, there's a from Bhaja Govindam, verse 21 by Shankara. Very beautiful. You can make a song out of it, and it goes like this: Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi jananam, punarapi mananam, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. What does this sound like? Samsara. Yes. That means I am jananam, born, and I am maranam, I die. That means I have conquered samsara. Okay, so jittaha conquered sargaha. Now, taihi is, I'll give you first the English and then the Sanskrit, because Sanskrit is also for those who wish to watch it in the video. There's 2 parts of taihi. Taihi is one with vision of oneness. So we're now talking about T-A-I-H, taihi word. One who has vision of oneness. Abheda drishti. You don't have to put the Sanskrit. Abheda drishti. And number 2 is one who has equal vision, equal regard for all things. This is called sama drishti. Sama means same. So abheda drishti, sama drishti. Number 1, vision of oneness, and 2, I equally see the same in all. So the taihi is the one who has conquered jittaha, samsara. And I just gave you the 2 qualities of that one who has conquered. One with vision of oneness, and one who sees the same in all things. So actually those 2 definitions are actually one and the same. Okay? So, samsara doesn't affect, so what does this mean? Samsara does not affect a jnani. That's what we're saying. Why? Because a jnani is free from samsara. Samsara only applies if I think I am the body-mind. Because if I think I'm the body-mind, I'll be reborn. If I see my nature as all, then there's no samsara, because I see the sameness in all things. Okay. So, let's, for example, take a wave. A wave is identified with itself, right? This is an ignorant wave now. We're talking about an ignorant person. A wave is identified with itself, and it experiences problems. Because it's by itself, it thinks it's apart from other waves, it tries to have good foreign relations with its neighbors, it tries to please its other neighboring waves. So it's constantly being agitated by trying to create a sustainable environment for itself. Because the wave has likes and dislikes, vasanas. So these vasanas tell the wave, no, you need to tell other waves not to talk too loud, to have the windows half closed, to not speak on the phone constantly, to use the computer for only so many hours. So all these likes and dislikes constantly agitate the wave's mind to try to manipulate the environment according to its likes and dislikes. Yeah? So what happens is, we're still talking about an ignorant wave. What happens is, this wave has fear of mortality because it knows it's going to end. And it says to itself, one day I am going to I'm going to crash, I'm going to die, and I'm going to merge in whatever this is. That's how this, whatever this is, God. You see what's happening here? So the wave is seeing itself apart from God. So that means my existence is only as good as I am standing upright. As soon as it merges, my existence has ceased. This is a thinking of a ajnani, a non-wise person. And I am created, that means my creation is only as long as the wind is holding me upright, because a wind creates waves. And this one is called prarabdha karma. That means, as you know what prarabdha karma is, right? That karma which is your karma assigned to you for this life. Okay? So this means my karma, my prarabdha karma is called wind, is keeping me upright. And when this wind chooses to change its course of direction, then I'm going to fall, and that fall is called the ending of prarabdha karma. That's called death. That's called end of my existence. And this causes a lot of fear for the person, because they think once I'm no longer independent by myself, standing upright, then there's no more existence. So after some time, this wave from attending Vedanta classes converts into a wise wave. Okay, so now let's see what happens to a wise wave. The wise wave is still blown by the wind, is it not? However, its vision is no longer on the independent wave. Its vision is on ocean. No, its vision is on the water, H2O. Okay? So it's still the same. It's not changed its form. It's not more holy now. It's not getting other waves worshipping it, right? Because it's so enlightened. It's just changed its focus from independent me, little me, this is called ahamkara, who takes ownership of its independent existence, to that which is inhered in all other waves. That means all it did is change its focus point. That's all it did, nothing different.
Enjoying the opportunity.
Yeah, it's enjoying the opportunity. Okay. And it says that the wind has not created me. I only have an incidental form, an incidental body. The wind has not, despite its blowing, does not affect me because I stand untainted. I've been there all the time, all along. Even when the winds of Ishvara were blowing, my prarabdha karma, when I was tossed around, hither and thither, left and right, I was completely free all along. The wind gave me shape, right? Because the wind gives shape to the wave, right? The wind gave me shape, but the shape which the wind gave me is only incidental. And it's bound to go away, right? This shape that I am currently taking on as a person, the wind only gave that shape to me, but this wave is also bound to go, like any other wave. We're now talking about a wise wave, okay? So whether the shape is there or not, whether the form is there or not, this is how a wise wave is thinking. Whether the wave is there or not, I remain eternal. Because I am, how can you get rid of water? Right? The water is always there. So despite these ongoings of these forms and shapes changing, I remain eternal. And even when the sun evaporates me, I evaporate as steam. And then I change into clouds. And then, when it rains, I fall onto the mountain. And then I take the name of a stream. And then I change my form into a river. In other words, what a wise wave knows is I remain as the water. All that changes is the name and form. Nama Rupa. Right now, one of those forms is the body. One of those forms is a thought. One of those thoughts is an emotion. One of those thoughts is an insect or time or space. I take on different forms, and yet I, or my essence, remains untainted, pure. This is what we call an enlightened wave. Simple knowledge. The wave is not trying to experience itself as the one who's able to take on rain and clouds and steam and waves and rain and so many other forms. It's just supposed to understand that my nature remains untainted, free. All that is different is the form, but the form does not affect me. Just like the steam, what's inside the steam? Water. What's inside the rain? Water. What's inside the river? Water. What's inside the wave? Water. But name and form changes. That's all that a wise person understands. So, the end of, in other words, the end of the transaction with the world in one form is not the end of me. Right? The end of transaction of the wave is not the end of me. The end of transaction of the rain is not the end of me. The end of transacting as steam is not the end of me. I remain just in different form. In other words, I never cease to exist. We're talking about you, by the way. When I say I, I'm speaking to you, right? Okay. So in death, similarly, the physical body does go away, no doubt, right? But I, Atma, does not cease to exist because I'm no longer transacting through the body. When I say I'm talking about Atma. I, Atma, am no longer transacting through the body, and the body can no longer transact with the world. Despite that, I, Atma, remain like I always was, even when I was taking on a form of a human being. So nothing happened to me. All that happened was to the form which I, Atma, was taking on, as the rain, as the steam, as the wave, as the river, as the stream. But the H2O, since there is only H2O, remains. And that H2O, you are. And that H2O we call existence, which is what's called your Chaitanya Swarupaha, your Swarupa, your nature as consciousness, which cannot be destroyed. It cannot go anywhere because everything is that nature. So the problem with an ignorant person is they don't see the sameness in these forms. They think, oh, poor little me, I'm just a small person. So because of that focus, I experience a lot of different problems. But if my focus changes to that which inheres the entire world, then all problems automatically go away because there's nobody higher or lower than me. I am in everything, in everywhere. Okay, so this is what a wise person is, what a wise person conquers, this samsara as a result of this understanding. So that means the form goes away, but I continue to survive. My surviving cannot be seized. Okay. And by whom is this understood? It's understood by Yesham Manaha Samye Yesham Manaha Samye Sthitam. So this is a new word I'm addressing now. Who understands this? Yesham Manaha Samye Sthitam. Okay. And who is Yesham Manaha Samye Sthitam? One who is established in Atma Jnana, in knowledge. One who knows Atma Brahma Aikya, that my awareness and the awareness of the macrocosmic, of the whole, is exactly the same. So that's what this phrase is referring to. Okay. And this is, of course, in the background. This is not something that a person, has to remind themselves. It's a thought. This is like subconscious. Okay. Now, this Brahman is the identity that we all share. How do we share this, and how do we prove? How do we prove this identity as Brahman? Do you want to know? How do we right now prove that we are Brahman? Okay. Every sentence starts with what? I am. Whether you verbalize it or not, this is the first thought that has to go on, whether you acknowledge it or not. I am, and then, we follow it. I'm tired, I am super happy today, I am not so feeling well. Always this thought, whether verbalized or not, it starts with I am. No matter where you go, in any country, with any kind of belief, with any kind of religion, or any kind of system, the person, to make any statement, has to start with I am. Why? So, if you write the word I am, let's now analyze what I and what am is. Okay? So, write I am. This I is called Chit Swarupa. C-I-T Swarupa. Chit means awareness, consciousness. And Swarupa, I said already, means nature. Now, so I is this Chit Swarupa. So what does this mean? Let's translate this. You cannot make a statement unless there is a conscious entity. Right? I can't say there is a pen here unless there is a preceding conscious I who's aware of the pen, right? So this conscious entity is called I, Chit Swarupa. And am is, there's only one other option, Sat Chit, existence. That means am, I am, amness, I exist. So I am conscious of my existence, and because I am conscious of my existence, I'm able to validate everything else. Because I, Chit Swarupa, am conscious of amness, of my existence, because of that, I can say I am, and then whatever you put it, like, fill in the blanks, whatever you want to say. In other words, I am Sthula Sukshma Sharira. Right? This is what we say. Even an ignorant person says, I am cool, I am uncool, I am energized, I am tired. Right? So that means I first have to validate my existence, as I, as a conscious principle, has to make a statement to identify itself as conscious in order to give validity to tiredness or energeticness. Otherwise, if there's no conscious principle, then the tiredness or energizingness cannot be validated by anyone. Who's there to validate it? So this I am is that validator of experience. And this I am is Brahman. Nobody can say a statement without first identifying with this conscious entity called I, this awareness. Otherwise, it's like in a coma. Like, what is there? You put a guy in a coma, he can't say anything, or she can't say anything, because there's no consciousness there. Any questions so far?
Yeah.
We're almost done, yeah?
You say you can't say anything without the I am, but of course it can. But
Yeah, of course you can.
so what you mean is that it's somehow understood. Like if I look out the window and say it looks like it's going to rain,
Yeah.
and I'm saying I think it looks like it's going to rain, or I. What do
Okay.
you,
Yeah, I wasn't talking about linguistics. I was not talking about English language. I am. I was talking about your existence. I was saying you have to first exist. You have to be conscious of your existence, and because of your conscious existence, you can then that conscious existence called Atma can then make a claim about the rain. Through your body, of course. Right? It needs the body to witness the rain. So if that conscious existence is not there, then the body is not going to, despite its advanced sophistication, it's not going to have any kind of ability to validate the experience, to validate the experience that the body is transacting with the world. So the I am is constant, even now. While if you want to say something to me, you're saying that only because you are aware of yourself and because you exist. That awareness existence is Sat Chit. I am. Yeah. Okay. And let's use one example. Wise person. What does a wise person know?
That he is,
Okay.
that he is the Atma.
Yes. I'll give you an example. A wise person says, I am a wave. Right? Because everyone's a wave. Everyone's a form. I am a wave indeed. I am limited to space and time, to the amount of capabilities I can do. I am limited to how much I can remember. Like all the normal stuff a human being says, right? However, water, my real nature, has no location. It's everywhere. So we're talking two realities here. Yes, I am limited. We're talking about the mithya. The jiva is limited indeed. Or for that person, it's called a jiva mukta. We won't say jiva for a liberated person. We call a liberated person a jiva mukta. So this means, yes, my body does have space and time, does have limitation, but my nature is water. And water being everywhere, nothing but water, is what? Out of space. Space and time does not apply to my nature being water. My nature being, I'm equating water to consciousness. Why? Because water is in and through all waves. Right? Water is in and through all waves, the whole world, the entire universe. And because it's everywhere, you can't give it space and time because it's everywhere. So what I'm saying is, it depends where your focus is. If my focus is on the limited entity, on this person, then of course there is a limitation. There is a sense of loss, a sense of sorrow, a sense of joy. But if I change my focus to that which is in and through all forms, then there is still joy and sorrow because that's a different order of reality. That's not going to stop. However, I don't take it so personal anymore because now I know that's just another form going through its personal swadharma, through its personal prarabdha karma, through its personal situation with its unique circumstances. But I remain free. Okay? So just like the body-mind, for example, is located, right? Our body-minds are located right now, but consciousness is in and through all bodies and minds. And that consciousness you are. So you're simply changing your focus from the limited form to that which is in and through all forms. And you're not supposed to, quote, experience being everywhere. You're not supposed to experience being all pervasive. Because this is once again a big fault in the spiritual world, trying to experience being all pervasive. How are you going to do that? There's a body here. There's a mind and intellect. You can only experience so much, let alone the whole, right? Yeah, exactly. So it's a matter of knowledge that despite my apparent limitations, like the wave, for example, so what? My nature is that which is in and through all forms. And how big is this Brahman, as he said? This consciousness, how big is consciousness? Yeah. So, Dave, you asked me, like, can you get out of consciousness? Very good question. How big is consciousness? Consciousness is Brahman big. What does Brahman mean? It means big. Now, big does not mean as in Eiffel Tower big, or atom big, or pen big, or person big, or moon big, or sun big. This big does not have a noun to it. It's just big, right? If I just say the word big to you, I didn't tell you how big, I just said big. So this means you can't attribute anything bigger than big. You know why? Because how is that, by what is bigger going to get accommodated by? Right? So even bigger than the big, it still has to be accommodated by something that is even bigger. So the question is, can you get out of consciousness? Just imagine this. Imagine there's a big, okay, let's just say yes, and let's propose a problem. We're going to create a problem now. Imagine consciousness, this Brahman big, is so big, but there's actually there's an edge to it, right? It's like a big sphere. And at some point, undiscovered, there's like, you can go outside of Brahman. Okay, so that means you can have a big pole, and this pole can be one half in Brahman and one half out of Brahman. Right? Just imagine that. Now, how are you going to say that the other half is out of Brahman when Brahman is the very consciousness you're using to state that the pole is in Brahman? So, if Brahman has an edge, right, and I am that Brahman as consciousness, then how am I supposed to know about the other half of the pole when that pole is outside of awareness? Does that not imply, just because I said there's the other half outside awareness, that my awareness also has to be in that other half? You see that? Yes. So that means nothing can get out of Brahman, because if I say something's out of Brahman, then just by the mere fact of saying something's outside of Brahman implies I'm also on the other side over there. So that means I have not gotten out of Brahman. That Brahman is you. And that's what we say, Tat Tvamasi, you are that.
That's the whole principle of non-dual.
That's the whole principle of non-dual. And this Brahman, I'll finish off, this Brahman is Anantam. It's endless. That's how big? It's Anantam big, right? And it's Ananda, it's limitless. So the Brahman is Nirdosham. Nirdosham means it is ever beautiful, it is ever pure, and it is ever secure. So what could be more secure than abiding in the most secure? Right? This is what we do in the world. We abide in our motorcycles, in our cars, in our families. But what could be more secure than that which you already inhere right now? Brahman, consciousness. So a wise person, as we said, abides in this alone, because that's where all the limitless security is, all the limitless happiness is. Okay. So this concludes verse 19. So next week we'll continue verse 20 and 21, and then we will be finished with Jnana Yoga, because chapter 5, verse 13 to verse 21 is Jnana Yoga. Okay, so we've been exposed to some quite interesting principles of self-knowledge. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May all be happy. May all be free from illness. May all behold good things, and may no one suffer. Peace.